Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS report. It is Wednesday, February the 9th. I hope everyone's having a great day. My wife informed me that today apparently is National Pizza Day. So I've got a couple pies on the way. So my Wednesday is going well. In terms of DFS, okay day yesterday for us. We hit on a lot of the key spots. Also, some of the spots that we took pretty heavy stances on didn't come through. So overall. Basically, Monday and Tuesday were both pretty mediocre. But I did find one common denominator in both of those days, and that was the fact that I drank water during the live stream. So we've shifted back over to the beer for today's show. Hopefully that brings us some better luck. So just trying to change things up after a couple so days. So hopefully a big night tonight. But yeah, a couple people had huge nights, which is good. We definitely had some of the really important spots, but also just some big spots that let us down. So overall, depending on who you ended up playing, could have been a great night or could have been a pretty poor night based on the information. Tonight we've got a 6-game slate. Cheers to you as well, Billiam McThrill. Terrific name as well. We've got 6 games. Carter Hart against most likely Alex Nedeljkovic, but again, unconfirmed. That game gets underway at 7 p.m. Eastern, so Nedeljkovic confirmation will come around 6:30 p.m. Eastern. The Dallas Stars host the Predators at 8. It'll be Jake Ottinger, most likely against UC Saros, but again, unconfirmed. So look for 7:30 p.m. Eastern for UC Saros. Stuart Skinner expected to get the start in the second half of back-to-back for the Oilers. Mike Smith started yesterday. There's no chance he goes back-to-back. Mikko Koskinen in COVID-19 protocol, so he won't be available. And then we've got Marc-Andre Fleury for the Chicago Blackhawks. No tournament tonight. It didn't feel. We had like 8 people last night, so probably going to put the tournament on pause or start one of those leagues or something until we get a better turnout. It's just not really worth it if we're only going to get 8 or 9 guys in the contest. So no contest tonight. If people want me to bring it back, I will, but nothing tonight. Maybe we'll start a league tomorrow and get something a little bit more permanent going forward. But yeah, Stuart Skinner again. We could get announcement on that around 6 p.m. Eastern when the Oilers get to the rink if they decide to announce a starting goalie. If not, warm-up starts 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You've got Jacob Markstrom confirmed to start for the Flames. Most likely going to be against Robin Lehner with Laurent Brossoit getting the nod last night and shutting out the Edmonton Oilers. Again, that was one of the spots we really hit on last night, was fading the Oilers. Didn't look quite as good when Brossoit ended up getting confirmed instead of Lehner, but then Brossoit played terrifically, so it really did not matter. Phil Grubauer goes for the Seattle Kraken against Karl Vejmelka, who will start on back-to-back nights for the Coyotes. Yaroslav Halak makes his 10th start of the season for the Canucks against, who knows, for the Islanders. We have Ilya Sorokin projected right now, but again, we won't know that until closer to game time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern start time, so 10 p.m. Eastern for warm-ups. In terms of the implied totals tonight, the Oilers go from getting shut out last night to the top of the board tonight, 3.7 expected goals or implied goals for. Then you got the Seattle Kraken at 3.4, the Flames 3.2, Flyers, Red Wings in what looks to be a pretty high event matchup in the 4th and 5th spots there. So yeah, it really looks like a night where you're going to want to try to get McDavid, Draisaitl, and company involved. Last night, the line combinations obviously didn't really work out all that well for them. So I would imagine we did see a little bit of Leon and McDavid together. Obviously, that's because they were losing. Whether or not they start that night, probably pretty unlikely. But I would expect to at least see different line combinations. So a lot of what we talk about from the Oilers today really isn't going to hold a whole lot of weight until we see what the lineup actually looks like in warm-up. So just keep that in mind. If you don't lock your Oilers lineups in, we're probably going to see quite a few changes in warm-ups this evening, excuse me. In terms of the 5v5 score, Calgary won by far and away the number one line to target according to 5v5 score tonight. Calgary 2 also grades out very, very well, but you got Seattle 1 pretty high up there. Vancouver 1 grades out well again. Dallas 1. Then the collection of Philly 1, Philly 2, Detroit 2, Detroit 1, and again, what looks to be like a pretty high event, high scoring matchup between the Flyers and the Red Wings. Then you got Nashville 1, then the 2 top lines for the Oilers. But again, depending on how that lineup ends up shifting out in warmups could drastically change where the Oilers are on this list. If they decide to maybe bump Evander Kane down and go with a Zach Hyman, Jesse Puljujarvi, Connor McDavid combination that we've seen before, have a ton of success, they would move easily into the top 5, maybe top 3 lines tonight because their underlying numbers are so much stronger than what we've seen thus far from Kane, McDavid, and Yamamoto. Let's start at the very top with the Flyers and the Red Wings. Again, both teams' top 2 lines look like they're pretty good options tonight. All 4 of them are very, very affordable as well. You've got Lindblom, Giroux, and Atkinson on the top line for the Flyers. Grading out as the best option. Flyers too of Van Riemsdyk, Lawton, and Konechny looks pretty good. 11,100 to full stack them. Then you've got Detroit 2 at 12,500, Bertuzzi, Suter, and Robbie Fabry. And then very interesting, you got Detroit 1 tonight, which is going to feature Philip Zadina at 2,500, Dylan Larkin 7,500, and Lucas Raymond 3,900. So as a Red Wings fan, it's pretty exciting top line tonight. Philip Zadina has been around it a lot this year, just hasn't really been able to convert. So hopefully this is an opportunity where he can get things going. Ekman Larson or McNabb in cash. I would say Ekman Larson for sure. I didn't really mention Ekman Larson a whole lot yesterday. That was just oversight by me because I had Ekman Larson everywhere last night with Quinn Hughes out. He's still just 3,100 tonight. Top power play, top pairing, going to play tons of ice time. And again, it's not as good of a spot as last night against the Islanders, but still at 3,100, Ekman Larson definitely has a higher upside than McNabb, and the floor is probably pretty similar as well. So definitely Ekman Larson for me. But in terms of the matchups for this Red Wings and Flyers game, going to be a lot of the top lines, Giroux and Larkin going head-to-head, a lot of Lawton versus the Bertuzzi line, and then the third lines will see each other almost all night long. How it works out is Flyers 1 ends up with the best matchup for them, 61.7 matchup score. The best matchup for the Red Wings is actually the second line. So pretty interesting here. You've got the top 6 for the Flyers, which has played pretty well. So the Red Wings' worst defensive line right now is that Dylan Larkin line, 30 scoring chances, 12 high danger. But the Red Wings as a whole are pretty solid defensively, at least the way this lineup is currently constructed. So 30 scoring chances, 12 high danger, that's as bad as it gets for Detroit. So that opens the door up a little bit more for Philadelphia 1. So I don't really have a whole lot of interest in the Scott Lawton line. Konechny as a one-off is an okay option, but full stacking Philly 2 is probably not something I'm going to do. James Van Riemsdyk, obviously had a pretty decent season. He's had some ups and downs, which is kind of something you're accustomed to seeing from James Van Riemsdyk. But overall, I think most of my interest is in Philly 1. Offensively, the numbers are pretty similar to Philly 2, and they've just got the much better matchup here going up against the Larkin line. And then you've got Detroit's second line. Again, their offense numbers are pretty similar to Detroit 1, actually a little bit better, 30 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 11 high danger. They've been solid going up against this Lawton line, which has been getting caved in the majority. I shouldn't say getting caved in because they are doing just as much damage as they are giving up. They just play a very high event game. So, giving up 34 scoring chances, getting 33, that's high event hockey. So, that should be good news for Detroit too. So I lean a little bit more towards Detroit 2 and Philadelphia 1 in this matchup, although I'm certainly intrigued by what you get from Philip Zadina on this Larkin line. Problem is Larkin is just ridiculously expensive at 7,500, which turns me off them a little bit. But the matchup's pretty solid. I think that the Flyers are a lot better than what we've seen from them all season long. I think that they're probably about to turn a corner here in the second half. I don't think that they're going to, really fight back them into the playoff race or anything, but I think they're going to be a much more competitive team here in the second half. And that pretty much starts tonight for them. So I like Detroit 2 a little bit more. Again, they grade out slightly ahead. So Detroit 2 is a little bit better for me, but I am certainly interested in Philip Zadina, Raymond, and Larkin as well. As Zadina at the very least makes for a decent one-off minimum price value play as well. I did remember to do the power play report today. Both teams' power plays have been pretty brutal. Both teams' penalty kills are pretty solid as well. They're actually the second and third best penalty kill units on the entire slate. So it's the power play ranks 10th and 11th respectively for the Red Wings and the Flyers tonight. Moving on, second game, we've got the Stars and the Predators. The Stars have to be one of the most confusing teams in the entire NHL. I just really never know what you're going to get from them. Outside of that top line, you kind of know what you're getting with them every single night. But, some games, they look like they're unbeatable, and then the next night they're just getting absolutely caved in. So I really don't know exactly how to look at a Stars game, especially when they're on home ice where they've been really good this year. It's just, they're a very difficult team to predict. But overall, both teams' top lines, pretty standard game here. Both teams' top line look really good. Both second lines, slightly above average. Both third lines below average. Not really all that surprising. You've got this top line for the Stars, which is 19,000 a full stack, which is actually pretty reasonably priced. For whatever reason, DraftKings just disregards Jason Robertson as a human being. 5,600 for Robertson is far too cheap. Terrific cash game option. Brings that stack at 19,000, very affordable for what these guys bring to the table. Obviously, the main concern for them is the fact that UC Saros is probably in between the pipes for the Stars, or for the Predators, excuse me. Matchup wise, we're going to see a lot of that Hintz line going head to head with the Philip Forsberg line. Matchup 27.7. So the matchup's pretty brutal. Both those lines are very good defensively. So it looks like it's going to be a pretty tight checking matchup. Hard to really predict who's going to win that one. Then you've got Dallas 2, who's going to see a good amount of the third line for the Predators. Grades out as the best matchup among the top 9 for the Stars. Then you've got the fourth line is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting against the Ryan Johansson line. So overall, how it works out is basically you've got Dallas 2 with the best matchup for the Stars, but it's not overwhelming. It's actually below average, so not really a whole lot of interest there. And then the best matchup for the Predators is Nashville 3, but again, you're not probably going to play a whole lot of Nashville 3. So overall, both these teams don't look all that appealing. Again, if we go back to the implied totals here, both relatively low on the list. Vegas expects this to be a low-scoring affair, very tight game. So I don't have a ton of interest. I think realistically, it's hard to get away from both teams' top lines. They're just by far and away their best lines, but they're going head-to-head. And like I said, they're both good defensively, so it's hard to really predict which one is going to emerge in this game. So if I had to pick, I would probably lean towards Nashville 1. I just have way less faith in Jake Ottinger than I do UC Saros. Surprise, surprise there. So if I had to pick somebody in this game, it would be Nashville, and Nashville 1 would be the line that I would go to. Again, Nashville 3 has a pretty good matchup, but they don't do anything offensively really. So, if you want to play some Tanner Jeannot, go for it. But overall, I think this is just going to be a pretty low scoring game, one that I'm going to stay away from for the most part. In terms of the power play report, the Stars also grade out with the third best power play advantage. Their power play has been quite good. Nashville's penalty kill is, bottom 5 on this slate. And then you've also got the Stars, one of the best power penalty kills, if not the second best penalty kill in the NHL behind the Hurricanes. So it doesn't look great for the Predators on the power play. So again, it just looks like a pretty low scoring game, not a whole lot going either way, but it's just really difficult to be like, yeah, I love the Stars tonight in a matchup that's not very good against the best goalie in the world or one of the best goalies in the world. So I still would lead a little bit more towards Nashville 1 than Dallas 1, but I don't think either one are particularly super strong plays. But definitely have some interest in Jason Robertson as a one-off at 5,600, even Forsberg at 6,200. One-offs are fine, but overall, full line stacks in this game, not so much. The third game, you've got Edmonton and Chicago. Edmonton 1 and 2 grade out as the best. Again, I don't expect the lineup to look like this at all. I think we're going to see wholesale changes up and down this lineup for the Oilers tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if Evander Kane maybe gets a shot with a Leon Draisaitl. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Nugent Hopkins moves back up to the wing. They got to find some offense here. Pretty good matchup to do so. Overall, the matchup isn't great across the board. They're all pretty much right around average tonight for the Oilers. So again, it's just going to be a matter of what this lineup looks like in warmups, and you're going to have to most likely rebuild all of your Oilers lineups because, like I said, it's impossible to really predict what those lines are going to look like. It's impossible to predict exactly what these numbers are going to look like. So the Blackhawks overall have kind of shored things up defensively a little bit. They're all right around average or slightly below average defensively. So no matchups really going to, one that you're going to try to exploit specifically. But obviously, you're just going to have to look at what the Oilers do with their line combinations and say, this is the one I like. Most likely, it's going to be the McDavid line that I would be targeting just because the McDavid line always seems to be a lot better at 5v5 than the Draisaitl line. Obviously, Draisaitl comes into play a lot more on the power play. Speaking of the power play, they've got the second best advantage on the slate. They have the second best power play overall on the slate going up against the Blackhawks penalty kill, which is bottom 5 on the slate. So Draisaitl McDavid certainly in play, because of the power play. I favor McDavid at 5v5, but Draisaitl does a ton of damage on the power play, and he doesn't need to generate a ton of scoring chances at 5v5 to capitalize. So I really like the Oilers tonight, but again, it's really difficult to hone in on any specific targets until we know what that lineup looks like. And again, those warmups don't start until 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that's going to be when you're kind of the mad scramble is going to be on to redo your lineups. it's going to be difficult if you're stacking them with like Detroit or Philadelphia or Dallas, Nashville to kind of, or I guess Dallas, Nashville's at the same time, so it won't really matter. But the lineups with Detroit and Philly, you're going to have to, just be prepared to make wholesale changes. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the Blackhawks. Like obviously the Oilers aren't very good defensively, but Stuart Skinner's actually played pretty well. And again, I can't put any stock in these defensive numbers right now just because I doubt this is what the lineups looks like. But then you look at the Blackhawks side of things on the offensive side of the puck, they've been pretty brutal. And we are very confident in these line combinations. This is what they're offering. When you've got Patty Kane averaging 17 scoring chances, 4 per 60, that's just disgusting. Doc and DeBrincat have been a little bit better, 28 scoring chances, 4 per 60, but still not great overall. So not a whole lot of interest in the Blackhawks. I just really don't think that they're a fun team to play in DFS because they don't do a lot. But if I were to play them, I would probably go to DeBrincat as a one-off at 5,500. He's too cheap. So I like DeBrincat as a one-off, but that's pretty much it. As for the rest of this team, there's just not really a whole lot there. So we'll see. We'll see kind of what warmups brings for the Oilers, and then that's going to kind of determine, how you're going to want to build your lineup. So don't be worried. I will have you covered at Daily Faceoff on Twitter. I will retweet the Oilers lineup as soon as I get it. I will also obviously update the website as well. So just be ready to make those wholesale changes. Moving on, we've got the fourth game of the night. You get the Flames and the Golden Knights. Calgary 1, Calgary 2 grayed out very, very well. You've got Vegas, who obviously, Vegas 2 smashed for us last night. That was awesome. Vegas 1 was a bit of a disappointment, but Vegas 2 is really, really good. And if you played them, you won a considerable amount of money, I'm sure. Tonight, not quite the same recipe for them. This looks like the highest event matchup on the entire slate, which bodes well for both sides. But the Flames are so good defensively that almost all of the worst matchup scores are on the Vegas Golden Knights side of things. Then you got Calgary. The top line, pretty decent matchup score of 66. The second line really looks solid tonight at 83. So, I don't really have a ton of interest in going back to the Golden Knights tonight. Obviously these numbers are pretty solid across the board, but it is a back-to-back coming off of a big win going into Calgary, who's rested. I mean, they're just so good defensively. They're so good defensively. This top 9 is unbelievable. Now there's talk of them maybe adding Tyler Toffoli before the deadline, and he would just make that top 9 that much more potent. So there isn't a whole lot to like about what's going on for the Golden Knights tonight. The matchup's brutal. It's a back-to-back. So I'm probably going to stay away from them, but I will look to the Flames tonight. The top line continues to be outstanding, almost averaging 40 scoring chances, 4 per 60, a 62% expected goals for share. They are going to go head-to-head with the Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty line most of the night, which is very good. They'll also see a decent dose of the fourth line, which is really their two best defensive lines. What's going to open things up for Calgary too is they're going to see almost an even split between the second and third line. So obviously when you're up against Carlson, Marchessault, and Smith, that's not the best matchup. They've been pretty solid defensively all season long. 29 scoring chances though they're still giving up a fair amount. They're playing a little bit of a higher event game. So there is opportunities there when you're up against that Carlson, Smith, Marchessault line, but where the opportunities will be plentiful is when they see ice time, which again is going to be about half of their ice time against Vegas 3. Vegas 3, another line that plays a pretty high event up-tempo game, but they're giving up 35 scoring chances, 13 high danger. They've been really, really poor defensively all season long. So that opens the door for Calgary 2 tonight. So Calgary 2 has let us down recently, so I am a little bit gun shy, but they're super affordable, 11,900. Mangiapane has cooled off considerably. Maybe here in the second half he'll be able to get things going again. Backlund's been playing very, very well. Shot volume has been skyrocketing, which is great. Coleman's also always just kind of a steady source of shots, and then when he chips in offensively, it's just a bonus. But his offensive game has started to improve as of late as well. So I do like Calgary 2 quite a bit tonight. Again, Calgary 1 is always going to be the higher upside play. They're also double the price, so you kind of get that upside baked into their price. So I like both of these lines pretty much evenly tonight. Calgary 2 certainly a little bit more risky, but with the risk comes the lower price tag, and they have the better matchup. So I like Calgary too quite a bit tonight. Calgary won as well. So not really a whole lot of interest in the Flames. Speaking of the power play report, we've got the Flames also the best power play advantage on the entire slate. They've got the best power play right now on the entire slate, going up against one of the worst penalty kills on the slate. So the best power play advantage, they look really, really good at 5v5. So even though Calgary 1's offensive advantage at 5v5 isn't quite as great as Calgary 2, they fully correlate on the top power play unit, which has the best power play advantage on the slate. So that brings them, bumps them up a little bit to where you can basically say they might be one of the best lines to target on the entire slate. Mangiapane, Hattie, notebook looks great. Thanks. Cheers. Thank you for all the support as well. Hit the like button for our boy Brock tonight. Fire emoji, rocket emoji. Yeah, we're trying to get this show to the moon here. So smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Love to see it. Thanks for the shout out. Aaron, Calgary 1 too expensive. Can't fit them with Seattle 1. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're sold on playing Seattle 1 and you can't fit them, then that's fine. You find an alternative in Calgary 2 or another medium price line is where you're going to have to go. Speaking of Seattle 1, we'll go to that game next, the 5th game, the Seattle Kraken and the Arizona Coyotes. Both teams' power play is terrible. Both teams' penalty kills terrible. So what's going to give tonight remains to be seen. But overall, it looks like the 4th best power play advantage for the Kraken, which is okay, even with their brutal power play. At 5v5, they also look pretty good as well. Specifically, Seattle 1, 15,300 to full stack them. Jared McCann's playing very well this season. Jordan Eberle's had a nice year. Marcus Johansson at times has been really, really productive as well. They look outstanding. As for the rest of this game, not so much. We've seen, again, all season long, the Kraken have been a very, very reliable defensive team. And as long as they can get the goaltending, they're a tough team to beat. Grubauer has played significantly better as of late. So I don't really love the Coyotes tonight. Obviously it's not saying much. I am normally a bit of a Coyotes truther, but it's been a bit of a cold stretch for them. It's a tough matchup, similar to almost identical in a way to what Vegas is going through tonight. They are, on a tail end of a back-to-back going into a team, a road game against a team that's very, very good defensively. So it's a really difficult spot for the Coyotes tonight. Got to give them a little bit of credit. They played well enough to win that game last night. Thatcher Demko played very, very well, but they got 36 shots on net. And we said Thatcher Demko was really the one issue with him last night was going to be maybe the shot volume concerns. And there wasn't any of that. He hit 35 save bonus. He was outstanding. So maybe there's a little bit of hope here for the Coyotes, but in this matchup, I think there's just much safer options on the slate. Speaking of which, Seattle 1 grades out with the best matchup on the entire slate. About 24% of the ice time against the top line. Really where this matchup is looking good is they're 47% against Arizona 3. We've talked about Arizona 3 a lot. They are horrible. 33 scoring chances, 15 high danger. They have a 33.2 expected goals for share, a 38.7 Corsi for percentage. They're awful. So when you've got a line like Seattle 1 that has been pretty good all season long, 33 scoring chances for 14.7 high danger. They've been really good offensively. That's just a great matchup. Even when they go up against Arizona 1, they should have plenty of opportunity. That's a line that's given up over 31 scoring chances against. But Arizona 3, just an absolute nightmare defensively. So that bodes very, very well for Seattle tonight. And this is a line that could certainly go off. So Graham already planning on playing some Seattle 1 tonight, and I can't really blame him. Problem is they will see a decent amount of ownership. Obviously, anybody that plays against the Coyotes is going to see some ownership. They do play a lower event game, so they have to be pretty efficient with their chances. But, whenever you're averaging 33 scoring chances for per 60 against a line that's giving up 33 scoring chances against per 60, you got to like your chances. As for the rest of the Kraken, they just don't really do a whole lot offensively. They play a very low event, boring game. They're very stingy defensively. They don't get a whole lot going offensively. So it's really hard to pinpoint another spot from the Kraken that can have success tonight because they just don't generate enough to be consistent threats offensively. So I'm only really looking at Seattle 1 tonight. It's hard to really get interested in them. I scored 158 points last night with a single bullet. That's outstanding. That's a great lineup. Hopefully you were listening to the show and you just hit all the perfect points, and that's what got you there. But sixth game of the night, we've got Vancouver and we've got the Islanders. This looks like one of the more low event, boring games on the entire slate. If you look here, both teams' matchups very, very poor. These are two very good defensive clubs. As I've mentioned before, the Canucks have been significantly better defensively under Bruce Boudreau. Three of their four lines grading out above average defensively. The third line really the only one that's kind of struggling there, but at just below average, 29 scoring chances against per 60. But when you've got that type of team that's pretty good defensively, you need an opponent that's very good offensively to try to take advantage or to try to create an advantage, I should say. And the Islanders just simply are not that team, right? The top line's been okay, slightly above average offensively. 33 scoring chances is solid. They don't generate a ton in terms of high danger opportunities. They're just pretty good. They're not great where I'm like, I got to play them against Vancouver tonight. Overall, they grade out slightly above average. 13,800. I think that there's better targets around that price point. I think this game has an over under of 5, which is almost unheard of. Like the lowest it usually gets is 5.5 on most nights. It's at 5 tonight. So it's just like Vegas is expecting it to be extremely low scoring. I mean, they're literally 2 of the 4 lowest implied totals on the slate playing head to head. It's just that low scoring of a game. There's just not really a whole lot here. Especially if Elias Sorokin starts. He's just so good that it's hard to get behind the Canucks. So I really don't like anybody in this game. Again, I think that there is some decent spots here in terms of price. Like Bo Horvat at 3,600 is still way too cheap. Garland's down to 3,100. That's ridiculous. Like, so if we're begging for some salary relief, I think you can find it in this game, but I just don't think that there's much upside on either side of the puck. I think there's plenty of other fine value options, whether it's Calgary too. You got Philip Zadina. There's other salary relief options out there that have much better matchups. So I really just have no interest in this game whatsoever. Power play report, neither team is very, it's just so boring. Both teams pretty mediocre to bad on the power play or the penalty kill. So this is just the worst game. So we're just moving on. Defensively tonight, my boy Calvin DeHaan still just 3,700. Absolutely love that guy. So yeah, I'll definitely play some Calvin DeHaan. Connor Murphy, him and DeHaan are basically like the same person, 3,600. They do almost the exact same thing. Calvin DeHaan, 11 block shots per 60 is just outrageous, though. So they're very good floor options tonight. We talked about Oliver Ekman Larson. He doesn't pop up here, but he's just a purely opportunity play tonight. Just top line, top pairing minutes, top power play with Quinn Hughes on COVID-19 protocol. Lindell and Shillington still mid to low 4,000s here. They look fine. They've both been relatively productive all season long. Lindell's got a very safe floor. Shillington shoots the puck maybe more than anybody on the blue line in this entire slate. Yeah, he's the highest shots for per 60 on the slate. So from the blue line at least. Duncan Keith's still pretty steady. McNabb is always a guy that blocks just a shitload of shots. I can get behind him. Miro Heiskanen down to 4,500 again. The matchup's not great. I don't love the stars tonight, but Heiskanen at 4,500 is probably a little too cheap. There's our boy Ekman Larson, 3,100. Absolutely love him tonight. But I don't think that you need to dive too deep into the defense pool tonight. I think that overall the pricing is relatively soft up front. And if you do need to dip, into the cheaper defensemen, you've got DeHaan, you've got Murphy, kind of all right there, very cheap. McNabb, Ekman Larson. Those are my 4 kind of favorite options tonight. Donato with the third line Hattie. I like how you guys really dig deep for the Hatties. You don't take Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. You try to earn the free month of DFO premium. If you're new to today's show, please comment below who you think is going to score a hat trick tonight. If you pick correctly, we'll give you a free month of DFO premium, which has a $20 value. Just make sure that you don't pick somebody that's already been picked. So you got to try to keep an eye on the chat as we go along, because if somebody else picks him first, they get the free month. So just keep in mind, that's how we do it here. Comment your Hattie picks below. In terms of goalies tonight, Elias Sorokin grades out as the best goalie to play. But if he doesn't start, obviously Varlamov isn't quite as good, but he would still grade up there pretty high. It's difficult not to like Sorokin and or Halak tonight just because of how low scoring that game is going to be. But Halak actually grades out far lower. The shot volume is not very good from the Islanders. So overall, factor in that, the Islanders are also decently sized favorites tonight as well. That's why Sorokin grades out so well. Grubauer, as good as the matchup is and as well as he's starting to play, I think whenever Philip Grubauer is the highest or most expensive goalie on the slate, he's a little bit difficult to trust. But he has played much, much better lately. So I probably will have a little bit of Philip Grubauer tonight. The Coyotes showed yesterday that they can get the puck on net at a decent clip. So, the shot volume concerns might be going away a little bit there, but overall, he certainly comes with a little bit of risk. I don't feel great about playing Philip Grubauer at 8,200, but hopefully he can continue his stretch of pretty strong play as of late. UC Saros, I mean, whenever he's mid 7,000s, I just kind of seem to just hone in and lock in on him. I think you guys, especially those who have Hattie pick needs to be posted in the main comments and not the chat. I mean, it can be both. It's better. It's easier to keep track of if it's in the main comments. I would prefer if you guys posted it in the main comments, but I mean, if you throw it in the chat, it is what it is. I mean, chances of somebody scoring a hat trick are pretty limited anyway. If somebody does, I will scroll back through the comments. But if you can make it easier on me and put it in the main comment section, that would be great. But yeah, Saros, I just lock in on him. If you've watched the show a lot, I think you know that I just love you, Saros. And whenever he's 7,600, I'm going to be interested. It's not the greatest matchup, but he grades as the fourth best play, and I can certainly get behind that. Looks like a pretty good, cheap alternative. I think Nedeljkovic is pretty fine. I mentioned how I think the Flyers are probably better than we've seen from them. We are going to see better things from them moving forward. 7,500. I think that's a pretty good price for him at that point. But I like the Flyers to probably win this game tonight. And Carter Hart hasn't lost the Red Wings in his career. I'm not usually a guy that goes to like those splits, but he's 4-0, really, really good numbers against the Red Wings. They're on home ice. So I like the Flyers side of things a little bit more than the Red Wings. But if you need that $500 savings, I think Nedeljkovic is pretty good at 7,500 as well. So him and Saros look like the two really cheap guys tonight that I could certainly get behind. If you end up fading the Flames at all, I think Robin Lehner makes sense. The shot volume, he could face the most shots on the entire slate. We've seen the Flames just absolutely rack up shots in bunches. I mean, in Columbus, they had like 62 or something like that. Then they played Arizona and they had like 25 shots in the first period. So if you're fading the Flames, Robin Lehner certainly has the highest upside of any goalie on this entire slate. So at 7,400, he's a very good goalie. And if he puts on a show tonight, he could easily be the highest scoring goalie in the slate. So again, if you're fading the Flames, I think Robin Lehner makes quite a bit of sense. But overall, Sorokin looks very, very good. Saros looks great. Markstrom's fine. Markstrom's just, you never know what you're getting with him. He's kind of like, I'm either going to pitch a 34 save shutout or give 5 goals on like 30 shots. So hat trick picks tonight. For me, I'm hopefully I don't double up on anybody's here. We got a lot of Hattie picks coming in. Has Arizona 2 been garbage defensively, or is it just me? No, they've been way worse without Ekman Larson, but that's not really all that surprising. Hat trick pick. I'm going to go Michael Backlund as my cheap Hattie. I love Calgary 2 tonight. So let's go Michael Backlund, cheap Hattie. Expensive hat trick, Dylan Larkin. He's back there somewhere too. Go Dylan Larkin, coming fresh off the All-Star game. I'm going to go Dylan Larkin as my expensive Hattie. Michael Backlund as my cheap option. Comment below, again, if in the main chat, if you can, who you think is scoring a hat trick tonight. We'll give a Hart just got jinxed. I hope so. Go Wings, go, baby. But yeah, I'll try to bring back the contest tomorrow. I'll try and fire up one of those leagues. I think when you join the league, you just kind of get to play in the contest every single day type of thing. So I'll try to create one of those. But enjoy tonight's slate. It's one of the best sports weeks of the year. You've got tons of hockey. You've got the Phoenix Open starting tomorrow, which is literally the most fun tournament of the year outside of the majors. And then you got the Super Bowl this weekend. So we'll do a little bit of Super Bowl picks and Super Bowl fun on Friday as well. So we'll do a little football hockey crossover, but good luck tonight. Cheers to everyone. And hopefully you return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow. than you have tonight. We'll see you guys.